Greetings! Okay, that was a little bit awkward and cringe, but I had to do it. Why? Because now this time we're talking about new wave of British heavy metal, Saxon, with 27th album out there, Hellfire and Damnation. Now, might feel a little bit weird to talk about the new wave of British heavy metal when we're talking about Saxon, which started already 1970. However, with a different name and all that stuff, so we kind of fast forward to the late 70s to find out that, yes, Saxon was operating under that moniker since quite late in the 70s, meaning that this band has been operating there for during 6 decades by now. By the way, gorgeous cover. Demon Armies and Angelic Night might be a little bit too much for black metal people, but still. And then you have the lineup, which is mostly featuring some old school guys, probably 100 years old by now. Oh, just kidding. But roughly, this one comes from the same era as, say, Iron Maiden, but has only 10 albums more. Imagine that. Iron Maiden has been making music since the 70s, roughly the same amount of time as Saxon, with 17 albums out, which is a lot. And of course a lot of touring and blah blah blah, but Saxon, 27 albums of heavy metal. However, that, or the lack of touring compared to bands like Iron Maiden or Judas Priest, Saxon has been always more like the second row band in terms of British heavy metal. That is not to say they didn't do good music, but more like they never got the success, or maybe they didn't do the hit songs, much like those two bigger ones. Nonetheless, Saxon is still one of the cornerstone bands of, well, new wave of British heavy metal, or maybe British heavy metal in general. Whether we're talking about bands from the 60s or 70s, or the bands that came later on, that's how the story is. And of course now people will be reminding, yeah, but the first album was by Black Sabbath around 1970. So, whatever. I mean, the point here is, I am not drawing the line here between the new wave of British heavy metal or, the first wave of that. But these are the things that might feel a little bit outdated when we're talking about old school heavy metal from Britain, British or UK, some 50 years later. It feels like, new wave? Really? But yeah, let's not get revisionistic. So, Saxon has been here with the name since 1978, which was in fact the very same year they did their first demo with the name. So, first 8 years or so with different names, so of course the band was already experienced by the time they started using this name. So that alone should tell you a lot. Now, what followed was a year later, the debut album, self-titled. And then we move on to the 80s, and then things really started happening quickly. 2 albums in 1980, 1981, 83, so forth. Let's go quickly through the list here, and here we are in 2024, which also shows that the band has been very, very active in the 2020s. Inspirations 2021, Carpe Diem 2022, more Inspirations 2023, and now Hellfire and Damnation 2024. Four albums into 20s. 42 minutes, 10 songs, really classic take on the stuff, like as the other bands I mentioned, Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, decided like, okay, let's do some 70 minutes of albums, epic journeys to the world of heavy metal, and boring a lot of people while doing that with some previous albums. Saxon is like, let's not go to the world of 70 minutes of extra boring 10-minute epic tracks and all that stuff, but let's focus on keeping metal tight, intense, and no bullshit, no gimmicks whatsoever. And here we have it. 42 minutes, 10 tracks, and track lengths are mostly around 4 minutes. There are some 5-minute tracks, some 3 or even less so when we include the opening track, but more or so 4 minutes give or take, which is a very, very good length for a lot of heavy metal songs out there. Unless we're talking about those epic anthems, which seems to be the case with some, veteran people. Say Metallica, say Iron Maiden and some other bands as well, and you're like, yeah, some people don't really get that 8 minutes is way too often, way too much. But Saxon is like, let's do it, 4 minutes, spin a story, tell it to the audience, move on. And people are gonna be left hungry like, hey, mate, that song was so good, I'll go back to it, because they don't get the time to get bored with it. Now, this album is very, very solid, well-balanced, consistent. There are no weak points or moments when you feel like, why on earth this song is here on the album. Then again, there are a couple of songs which, in my opinion, kind of like have the high moments. Not too many, but for example, the last track, Supercharger, is a very good ending track. The kind of a one that makes you feel, hey, I'll give another spin to this album because it actually kicks some ass. Now, if only more songs were like that, and this would be at least a 4-star album, maybe even more. Now it's a little bit on the verge of that because, like I said, this album is very easy to listen to and get immersed in, but then you feel like, I don't remember that many good songs. I mean, like the really good songs. I'm talking about hit songs here. And that's maybe the only flaw on the album. Production-wise, vocals-wise, songwriting-wise, guitar solo-wise, everything is like, yes, you're gonna like it if you are into British heavy metal. Now, whether you're gonna like it a lot or just quite okay, depends once again how much you're into the genre. I guess I'm very picky when it comes to traditional heavy metal because when it's really good, I fucking love it. Whether we're talking about my favorites like Manowar, Wasp, or some Iron Maiden songs, or some Judas Priest songs, or whatever, yes, it's really, really good. But more often than that, I find a lot of traditional heavy metal bands just a little bit too boring for my taste. I mean, maybe I'm pickier with that than, say, death metal or thrash metal or black metal, I don't know. But sometimes I get the feeling like I kind of want to like it more than it is realistically possible. That is not to say this isn't a good album. In fact, it is quite good of an album. But to make the really first row mind-blown feeling with it, yeah, I don't see it happening for me. But if you are into heavy metal, if you've been into Saxon ever in your life, there's no reason why not to give a Hellfire and Damnation a chance. It's an album that has been out for a couple of weeks now. So give it a go and let heavy metal just conquer your soul and heart or whatever. And of course, I hope you like it. Should you favor a physical copy, this digipack is already nice. And what you can see here on the other versions tab, there are tapes, there are vinyl, there's even some 3 CD plus vinyl, super edition, limited edition box set, whatever. So whatever platform or format you prefer, it is all out there. Now off you go, enjoy some Saxon, some British heavy metal, and have a good day. Thank you and bye bye.